Thanks very much for being here today. Thank you for coming. I'm Larry Rita with Bank of America. Mark, thank you very much for being here.
Great to be here.
I want to particularly thank the mayor for gracing us with her presence and making those terrific remarks at the top. Mayor, thank you very much for being here today. I also want to say this is an only in Washington thing where you could have the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee one week and the football guy the next week, and I'm not really sure who had the biggest crowd.
Well, I heard it was football,
yeah,
but
so I kind of think it's
who's keeping score? Oh yeah, we are.
Amy, thank you very much for that introduction earlier. We do have I'm repping here.
Love it.
Ohio State guy.
Yep.
You grew up. Yeah, I know. Mark grew up in Ohio. I grew up in Michigan. So this is my depth of devotion to the Commanders. I'm willing to wear an Ohio State jersey to talk to a guy from Ohio.
That's right.
And I went to Navy, and he went to West Point. But Mark, thank you very much.
Whole nother problem.
I do. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. I want to thank my Bank of America Merrill teammates who are here today. It so happens, and I don't see him here today because he was trying to get in here from somewhere else. The co-president of Merrill Lynch, was a roommate of Mark's at West Point.
So I can talk all about him then. So.
He told me some stuff about you too. So, we dreamed this up. Mark was at the Army-Navy game at Northwest Field last fall. Amy was right in trying to remind. I couldn't remember how that turned out. I
don't either.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
It was a blur for all of us. But we talked about that then. Why don't we get together once you're in place and come here and talk to the Economic Club? So thank you very much for doing that.
Yep.
I do kind of want to start though directly where I was touching on already, which is your background a little bit.
Yep.
And you did grow up in Cincinnati. There's a long path, I'm sure, from Cincinnati. We'll talk about some of that from Cincinnati to Washington Commanders president. But why don't you tell us a little bit about when you grew up? You started out in Cincinnati. You were playing sports in Cincinnati high school.
Yep.
Grew up in Cincinnati and ended up at West Point. We'll get to all that. But tell us a little bit about your background in high school.
Yeah, it was a great. I have a lot of fond memories of growing up in Cincinnati. In fact, it was a neighborhood that was flanked by two plants. There was a Procter & Gamble plant and a General Electric plant. If you know Cincinnati, that's not an uncommon view there. And I literally grew up in the same house my entire life. I don't remember anybody moving into the neighborhood. I don't remember anybody moving out of the neighborhood. I affectionately referred to the fact that I had 7 families that were granted full privilege to discipline me at any time, and the rest of us as we ran around that neighborhood. And I grew up, a family where it was really faith, family, school, and sports, and not always in that order, depending on what night of the week it might have been. But
what sports did you play?
I played everything, but basketball was my best sport growing up and playing in high school. And playing in Cincinnati, and I think as many of us do, you spend a lot of my time at that time focusing on the things that I did not have, and as life has unfolded, I couldn't have been more appreciative for those values and those experiences that came out of that growing up in Cincinnati and having a family, friends, well-connected around all the time. It was great.
Did you always know, I mean, you're in this shadow of this kind of really good second tier, but really good university in Ohio. Did you always think, I'm going to West Point, or was Ohio State, were you playing at a level that maybe you could have gone to?
It's a true story. I believe I might be the only kid that ever came home and told mom and dad they were going to West Point. And true story, my parents were like, not Ohio State. I'm like, I'm not good enough to go to this. The reality is that what was important to me in high school, and I'd love to tell you that I had this like master plan drawn up in the bedroom in Cincinnati of where I'm going to go first and second. I'm going to be the CEO of this. I'm going to be the president of the Washington Commanders. No such luck. But I did have the foresight to know that wherever basketball was going to take me, I wanted to try to maximize the education.
Yeah.
And so the places that I looked at that basketball afforded me getting in the door of West Point really stood out for me.
So were you a recruit to West
Oh, I
Point?
was a recruiter,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, make no mistake, there's no chance I would have gotten into West
Not on
Point
your academic.
without Mitch, Mark, don't get concerned. The team's in good hands. But I had
Yeah, good. We should
I
have done
had
this before the interview process.
no chance of getting into West Point. I actually have had people over the years say, well, how do you feel about that? Like, you use sports to go somewhere that you might not have otherwise or would not otherwise have been qualified. And, my answer is always the same. I am proud of it. Sports is a means in which to open a door to have access to opportunities that I otherwise would not have had is something I'm extremely proud of. It's about what you do with the opportunity once the door's open. Had I gone there and wasted that, yeah, I might have felt bad. But I think for me, it came at a great moment. I had no military background. I'm not even sure I could tell you I fully understood what I was getting into when I got there. But I knew it was a great education. I knew there was a focus on leadership, which from a pretty early age, I started to form a point of view of how important it was to develop as a leader. And then I loved the guys that were on the team. And I felt like it was an interesting challenge for me.
So you were there. So you graduated from West Point. What year?
I graduated in 1990.
1990. So you were there 86 to 90.
Yeah, I was.
Did you, Cold War's going on, did you think I might this is interesting, I might want to be a career military officer? Was that ever on your mind?
No, not really. I mean, I'll be honest, what I loved about it, and I've said this many times, and I really do believe it's true, there is no better schoolhouse for leadership than the combination of sports and the military. And outside of being a parent, and a husband, I don't think there's anything I'm more proud of than leading men and women in the pursuit of excellence in the armed forces. It was just an extraordinary, at 20-something years old, you're turned loose in a complex mission with a real need to become a student of leadership.
So at West Point, you played basketball for 4 years. You were there 86 to 90, so you overlap with a fellow at Navy called David Robinson.
I did.
Did you play? Did you play, David?
Yep. David was a senior when I was a freshman. They were ranked, I think, 16th in the nation. Here's a great college basketball trivia question for my college basketball fans out there. David Robinson in 86-87 was number 2 in the nation in scoring. The question is, who was number 1? It was not me, I can tell you.
I thought that's where you were going. I thought we have a hell of a story.
Emphatically, that was not me. But it was someone who played with me at Army. So Army literally, the academies had number 1 and number 2 in scoring in Division I basketball in 1986-87. Kevin Houston was his name, 5'10", red hair, freckles. We called him Beaver, like Leave It to Beaver. And he was an impressive player, averaged 32 points a game. And it was.
So it's interesting you say that because I did go back and check the year David Robinson played against you. So that would have been the 87-88 season, or 86-87 season, I guess.
Yep.
He scored 18 points, so your guy must have beat him out then.
Oh, yeah. If you ever want, this true story, that game, big national TV game, had number 1 and number 2 at the 2 academies. It was a lot of fanfare, big Sports Illustrated article. And if you want to see I'm a little biased, but if you want to see the most complete half of college basketball by an individual, watch the first half of that Army-Navy game. Kevin Houston, 28 points in the first half. And needless to say, there was no confusion on who you had to stop at Army, by the way. No one was focused on me. It was all Kevin, but it was a great game, great game.
That's fantastic. So that was after Coach K, though, had been at West Point
Coach
in the
K's
70s,
older.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that was, some of that culture was still part of the program.
Yeah, I mean, Coach K's been terrific. I've gotten to know him over the years. I actually, oddly enough, my inner circle, I'm surrounded by Duke folks. Grant Hill was on my board of directors at Campbell's, and Jay Williams is a long time family friend and friend of mine. So, so we got a lot
great legacy.
A lot of Dukies around. Yeah, unbelievable legacy.
And so what did you study at West Point?
I studied economics. Academically, it's a true story. Again, Mitch and Mark, I'm going to need you to kind of close your ears on this one. I get to West Point, and I finish my summer, Beast Barracks, and the athletic director calls myself and a football player in and says to us, hey, just wanted to let you two know, you have the lowest SAT scores of anybody at West Point. Like, yes,
That's a
right, perfect.
distinction of its own.
And he said, you know, you're going to be in trouble some point in time. Please raise your hand. And it was actually a gift because, in fact, I was in first semester. So it took me a while to learn how to do it. I think in life, my path has been very focused on seeking out opportunities where I might not have been the most qualified, or I love when people used to say we're leaning in to you. I love that challenge. I love the work necessary to climb and learn and figure that out. And by the end, I was doing fine academically.
Yeah.
But it was tough.
We had at Navy, maybe had the same thing at West Point. We had a little saying that said, if the minimum weren't good enough, it wouldn't be the minimum.
Yeah.
So that was you kind of cleared that by yourself.
Yeah.
So you graduated from West Point and did what? You
went to flight school.
Yeah.
So again, under that same kind of heading of, you know, how do you make choices in life? I looked for things that I thought were going to be challenging. I also liked things that I thought would open other doors for me down the road. I always, when I talk to, you know, younger college, because I have two boys, one who just graduated from college last weekend and is going to be a football coach at Princeton, which we both chuckle about because he wouldn't have gotten into Princeton either, but he's going to be a coach there. You know, looking for opportunities in life that are going to afford you additional doors to open later is really great advice for kids that are tormented by what they're going to do in life. I don't know if anyone's got college kids out there, but it's, you know, the mental state of what I'm going to do. And my philosophy is always try to pick things that are going to develop and open the door. So aviation felt like a great opportunity.
How many were there? What percentage of the class at West Point flies?
I'd say it's probably 15-20%. What I had going for me was you had to have 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
So that screened out a lot of the academic, because you go by rank.
The guys
you go by
pushing their
rank.
glasses up on their own.
You go by rank to get to where you get your branch choice. And so, yeah, that was how I got to aviation.
So, and what did you fly?
So I actually had a very, very interesting job. I was the Army's expert on, I'm dating myself a little bit, but I was the Army's expert on Soviet helicopters.
Oh, okay, sure.
And I was stationed at a place called Fort Irwin, California, which is in the lovely Mojave Desert. I lived in Barstow, another lovely location, and we essentially replicated Soviet tactics, and it was a training facility. So we had UH-1s that were made to look like Hinds, and then we also had a couple of
the Hind
Hinds.
helicopter, the Soviet, very cool.
Yeah, so that was job one, and then I went to Korea. I was an airfield commander there, and it was really like a general manager when I took over my first general manager role in business, where I was the president of Kraft Foods in Greater China. The experiences that I got in the military, because when I got the job, I wasn't excited, but it was such a great education. Working civilian, working military, all at the same time. I had everything from a nightclub to the air traffic controllers.
Yeah.
A little bit of both.
And how long were you in Korea? How long?
Just over a year.
Yeah.
It was on its side. So I met my wife when I was stationed in Barstow. She was a school teacher on the Air Force base that was there. We get married, and I say to Kathy, and I hope you guys will get to meet Kathy. She's certainly the best part of me. And I was like, look, I don't know where I'm going in the military, but we'll be together. We'll maybe go to Germany. We'll get assigned somewhere. And we get married. I get my assignment. I'm going to Korea alone.
Yeah.
So she got to go back and live with her parents. It was awesome.
Great experience for her too.
Hooked her wagon to a star right out of the gate. But it was.
Welcome to the Army.
That was a tough conversation, but she's been such a trooper, and you know we've lived in China, Brazil, Singapore, all over.
But
Enterprise, Alabama. That's the tougher expat assignment.
So you got out when in 95, 96?
96.
And I know now in most corporations and companies have great military outreach programs. Was that the case then?
Yeah, so there was a particular program that focused on what was called JMO, Junior Military Officers. The idea was that you'd bring leadership project management from the military, and then Kraft Foods at the time, but there were several companies, Procter & Gamble did that as well, will teach you the business side. And I didn't have an MBA, but I saw this as a window that I could go through to get into a role that required an MBA. And so I took that opportunity. Yeah, again, no master plan. The fact of the matter was I was planning to do something more in government service, and a couple friends of mine were going to a headhunter conference in Pensacola, and I thought I'd go along and hang out, at the pool or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why don't you just interview with a couple folks?" I interviewed with Kraft, and that started the journey. I was like, "Well, if I don't love it, I can go do something else afterwards," and that was 35 years ago.
Yeah, and obviously you ended up loving it. So, but were they training? So then you would pick a
Yeah,
brand? I mean,
I had a great group of folks around me that were ex-military officers that are part of this program.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved was that you had a team environment where I could walk down the hallway and go, "I have no idea what's going on," or, "Am I supposed to wear a tie to this, or what am I supposed to do?" And you had friends and people that were coworkers that had been on the same path as you.
Yeah. Did you? And so because you ended up fairly senior at Kraft, but did you pick a brand to focus on, or how did that work? Like
No, I've actually worked on in my full time, over 300 brands. I've counted them. And you move around.
Yeah.
And so I started on log cabin syrup, and then I went to shake and bake. So I was clearly on the fast. I was on a fast track.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not just everybody gets shake and bake.
So shake and bake. If it would have been 1965 when I was in the chair, it was rocking.
Yeah.
But,
I still remember the commercial.
and I helped.
That
Yeah,
shake
sure.
and bake.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful memories. Yeah, everyone loved it back in 1960s. Not so much when I was there, but good. I learned a lot. I made my way through the cheese division.
Did you get to the mac and cheese eventually?
Yeah,
Wow,
I did get to mac and
fantastic.
cheese. DiGiorno pizza.
You were a hot runner.
I've had everything from Sour Patch Kids to Cadbury chocolate to Oreo cookies. I ran globally for a lot of years. We launched it into over 50 countries. Works everywhere you go. It's magic.
Oreos.
My favorite was sitting with the French team with them telling me why an Oreo will never work in France. I don't have a great French accent to deliver it, but I said, let's give it a try. Sure enough, like 6 months later, #1 grocery brand for.
So you ended up quite senior. You ran China for.
I did. So I was at a moment in my career where I was about to get promoted to vice president, which was a highly sought after kind of level. I don't know exactly why, but you imagined it to be. And instead of taking the promotion, I decided to take a lateral move to Singapore and start to work on the international side. My view was at that time that for Kraft and food companies in general, globalization was just starting to ramp up. And I felt like the experiences of being overseas and learning a global mindset on brands was going to be important. So I went to Singapore, was there a year, and the Greater China business collapsed. And right place, right time. But again, choose something that opens doors. I was there, and I got to step in my first role as running a unit. So I was Greater China. I had mainland Hong Kong, and Taiwan.
Were you there during the Olympics?
I was there right for the run-up to the Olympics.
Okay.
That's a sore topic for me.
Oh, okay. Let's go then.
Yeah. So I had signed the Olympic Training Center as we were the official snack of the Chinese Olympic Training Center. And Yao Ming was our Oreo guy, and got to know Yao really well. He's great. I mean, he's just best sense of humor. I got a great picture of us shooting around at the training center. I look like a 6-year-old that's wandered in off the street. The man is huge, hand, jaw, everything. So we had tickets to everything. Like I was like gold medal game for basketball. I had swimming. Michael Phelps was swimming.
Yeah.
Literally 2 weeks before the Olympics started, there was a complete meltdown in the Brazil business, a compliance issue, like really, sticky stuff. And the phone rang and said, "You got to go now."
Oh, too bad.
And so my friends enjoyed throughout that Olympics calling
Your finals,
me
yeah, right.
and going, "Hey,
guess where I am?"
I could reach out and touch Michael Phelps right now. I'm like, "I'd prefer you not to do that," but yeah, thanks. So I missed the Olympics, but it was an extraordinary time to be there. I was in Beijing actually, and the build up to the Olympics was fairly amazing to watch.
Yeah.
How a country mobilized, and wherever you may stand on China, but their ability to bring to bear the work needed to accomplish goals was pretty astounding.
Yeah, no doubt. What was your team? How big was the craft
It was
presence?
it was about $1 billion business
Yeah.
there. We had probably 500 people.
Yeah, that's impressive. But so Brazil after that?
Brazil, much larger business.
Yeah.
We had the largest chocolate business in Brazil. It's a very, very chocolate oriented country. Literally, people buy Easter eggs. They're the size of footballs on terms at a Carrefour or a grocery store. You go in 90 days, same as cash, to buy chocolate. And it's extraordinary business. And so I was there for almost 3 years, and another just great culture, great experience.
It's continuing in food products, continuing in consumer products. You end up as CEO of Campbell Soup.
Yeah, so I climbed
between,
a few different roles. We spun, for those that know Mondelez. Essentially, what we did was, well, first, part of a hostile takeover of Cadbury, one of the few that ever happens in food. Most of us are happy-go-lucky food people, but that was an interesting one. Warren Buffett was a major shareholder of Kraft and did not like it. I've had the pleasure of working for some amazing CEOs, Irene Rosenfeld, watching her navigate that, unbelievable, but absolutely the right thing to do. And then we split the company into two. We essentially spun Kraft Foods off, and we stood up Mondelez as the global business and the snack business. So Nabisco, I ran Nabisco as part of that, and then was part of the team that stood up a new organization. It was interesting. Then I did Pinnacle, which was more of a private equity model. We gathered up a bunch of neglected brands, Bird's Eye, Duncan Hines, Vlasic Pickles, breathed new life into them, and then sold it to Conagra Foods, one of the most successful private equity food ventures ever. Very, very, very interesting, taking old brands that had lost their way and kind of breathing life, and that is how I ended up at Campbell's.
But Campbell's has this great legacy with the NFL, predates your time.
Oh yeah, it's, I think, 27 years of chunky soup with the NFL. And it is special. I mean, I've worked on businesses that had far bigger budgets, but I would go to the Super Bowl, players would find me with their mom.
With their mom, yeah, right.
In tow. My mom can act. Watch, mom, act. And the players loved it. I mean, they loved it, and it is pretty special. I mean, I had the chance. I always made it a point of spending a little bit of time with whatever families were part of it, and it's a pretty magical relationship. I think the NFL, I know the NFL would say too, it is one of their favorite and one of their most iconic partnerships they've had. Like I said, 27 years.
Yeah, and did you get the Kelsey, Jason?
Yeah, so that was on my watch.
Yeah, right.
I have a couple big food things that I would say are my bigger
French
kind of
Oreos.
moments.
You know, we got that one.
I am the guy that started to mix up the creams in Oreos. So if you're blaming someone for that last 400 calories or so, that was me. Reese's was the first one we did. But yes, I would like to tell you we had anything other than dumb luck, but we signed the Kelseys right before Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So we had Jason and Travis and their mom, who is awesome. And we had a really very, very good run. But all of them, all of our players through the years, I would get notes all the time from the legends that came before, and it's pretty special.
No doubt.
Pretty special.
So you've had this now military, the training that you did, military training, as well as the command you had. Now the private sector and all the brand and iconic brands. What's the through line that gets you now Campbell Soup CEO to Washington Commanders? What do you see as the through line between the brand, the leadership, the military, all of that?
Yeah, so for me, again, I think a lot of my professional career has been looking for opportunities to be part of things or businesses that are going through some level of transformation, business transformation, cultural transformation. These are the things that motivate me. I loved my time in the consumer goods space, and I was a public company CEO for 8 years. And I am nothing but grateful for that. Campbell's is just an extraordinary business, been around for 155 years in Camden, New Jersey. I like to brag about this because I had literally, long before I ever got there, but it is truly the blueprint for government, community, and corporation working together to truly solve systemic problems. And that, to me, at this stage of life is really what it's all about. And so when I thought about what would be this next chapter and what was I really excited about, I was looking for all the things that I love, but I really wanted it to be in sports. And I was lucky enough to be friends with Tad Brown, who's the president of the Harris Blitzer Sports Group. I've gotten to meet Josh several times, and when this role opened up, I had I said, "What do you think?" And the early conversations were pretty interesting because clearly I'm not walking in with a resume deep in sports teams. But I think as we walked the path, and what was really important to me was to make sure I understood the values that Josh, and then I got a chance to meet Mitch and Mark, and what were we really trying to do? If it was simply just to build a stadium and drive some sponsor revenue, and honestly, I wouldn't have been interested. But the vision that Josh and the rest of the ownership group had was really to try to do something much more than that. Certainly transforming a business that, again, not unlike many businesses I've worked on, had wandered a bit off the path. And so how do we bring it back to the level of pride and trust that the team deserves? And then how do we use that platform to make a real impact in the community in a different way? And that is really what brought me here. And yeah, by the way, let's win a Super Bowl as well.
Yeah,
But
no,
in our spare time.
we
But
definitely
at the end
want
of the
that.
day, the idea that we're doing something much more with this franchise, winning games is incredibly important. And for all the fans out there, trust we are doing everything we possibly can to do that. But we also sense a very great responsibility as the stewards of this team for so many fans, and returning it to a level that it deserves, which we see as absolutely the best franchise in all of sports.
The Commanders as a brand. So you talked about a transformation. Bringing your brand expertise at the scale you've managed brands, how do you see that? I mean,
Yeah, it's an interesting puzzle, right? Because there could be no greater love than the heritage of this team, winning multiple Super Bowls, all the things that are great about the business, but some choppy water there. And here's a new brand and a new name, but has this wonderful heritage. And the challenge, I think, is the Commander brand has taken on some real meaning within the organization, whether it's what Dan and Adam have done on the football side. I mean, they truly understand what a commander is. They use it as a way to determine who's going to fit in the culture of the team. That's real. It's not it's not just a let me throw the name in here and there. They actually view it. And so therefore it brings some real equity. I think our opportunity with the fans is to really make it mean something and bring some relevance. And there are a variety of different equities that I think can be pulled from the history forward while still building the brand. So
it's I mean, it's a huge, obviously the vision is, and we've heard Josh talk about it, we hear you talk about it. It seems like the league has a sense of that too, maybe just because of the there just seems to be excitement in the league about this.
Oh,
I mean,
well,
if you guys feel that yourself.
look, I think there's no question it is good for football for Washington to be strong, to be competitive, to be doing the things that we're doing. That is not lost on anybody, whether it's our peers in the league or whether it's the league itself. It is good for football for us to be where we are and continuing to move forward the way we are.
I'm just going to say, we're going to take questions from you if you have them, so there will be mic runners, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but I just want to start thinking about what you may want to ask, what I didn't ask, Mark. If we can talk a little bit about just the organization, what the role of the president,
Sure.
the business operations, you mentioned Adam and how that
Yeah,
ran, and then
absolutely.
the ownership, how does that all work together?
Yeah, despite my desire, I can't call the plays in. They don't let me do that. No, it's very, very clear, and could not have more confidence. And quite frankly, along with meeting the owners, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Adam before I joined, and it struck me that relationship, although very different responsibilities, the more we are able to work together as a team, the better. So Adam and DQ have football well in hand.
Yeah.
I have all the confidence in the world. My function is really to then build the rest of the business, and that both supports and amplifies the football, but also does the things that we aspire to do, whether that's in the community, whether that's building a new stadium, and how we build the business. I do think this may not be a surprise to everyone, but it is to some. The world of sports, and I've believed this for a long time, that there is a real opportunity to bring a more commercial-centric, professional management, sports kind of business intersection. And there's certainly great examples out there that are doing that, but I think there's a new day coming where the demands on franchises are going to be asked to do more commercially, to do more economically, and therefore building processes, bringing professional folks in that can help drive the business, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, however you want to look at it. And I think ownership groups that are looking more and more like the groups that we have at the Commanders. I mean, these are serious business folks that yes, may have purpose beyond just the economic, but have a certain standard that's going to be expected. And what I hope to be able to accomplish with the Commanders is really to create that blueprint or that playbook for what the future of this intersection between sports and commercial enterprise management.
We had heard the mayor's vision and have heard it now for the complex. How much of that is a factor in terms of how you think about the future of this brand per se?
Yeah.
And the business that you just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I just would say is that having an opportunity to hit the ground in the district and spend time with the mayor and the mayor's team, I've been part of, I don't know, hundreds, I guess, negotiations and partnerships, and I've just been incredibly impressed with that team. I'm not just saying that because we're here, but it is a great team. I know Beverly, I saw Beverly in here. Where's Beverly? So, getting to know Beverly, getting to know Sarosh, getting to know Nina, the members of the mayor's team, I can tell you the reason that the power feels so strong together is because we are very aligned in the vision. And this is about much more than just simply building a stadium.
Right.
This is an opportunity to take 180 acres that should be the crown jewel of the district and turn it into both an economic and community engine that is going to be absolutely part of the roadmap for the future. And I think we've got work to do, of course, but I think that aligned vision and the aligned values are what's making this such an effective collaboration.
So if you could kind of do the micro look, what's a fan experience going to be like when you're at the, and then the macro look, what's the city experience going to be with that complex?
Yeah, I think the fan experience. We were very lucky to have a couple different municipalities are really excited about us as a franchise. We are incredibly grateful to the state of Maryland and the governor and the leadership there. They've been such tremendous partners for us for where we are today, and another great team that we had a chance to work with. But I think, in our heart of heart, the spiritual home of the Commanders, we believe, is at RFK. And I think the vision is this amazing opportunity to bring that heritage that I talked about, but also with that look to the future. This is about, pulling forward things that we loved about that, the walk to the stadium. I've heard Josh talk about it many, many times, and living into that, but in a contemporary, relevant way that feels like you are at the absolutely premier facility in all of sports, and that's the goal, with a view that looks up the mall and that is iconic, but yet fierce, and that's what we're building. I get Mitch and Mark and Josh are like, you got to make the stands shake. I'm like,
yeah, that's
I
a
don't
big
know,
part of it.
structurally.
Yeah, we definitely got to have that.
You got to make them shake, Mark. They got to shake. I'm like, well, I'll stand behind your chair and shake it. But but no, I think we really want to try to bring that vision back. But also, it's a look forward, and I think that does match the vision for DC and the idea of being, this kind of cradle of the nation while also looking forward. And I think the community around it should be a thriving, diverse, a little bit for everyone. And whether you are a Commanders fan or not a Commanders fan, this is a place you want to live and work. And I think we have the ability in this footprint to accomplish just that.
Yeah.
And through a lot of arm wrestling, there is a roof on the stadium, and I think that's going to enable us to bring 30 to 40 world-class events. I mean, we will be the only roofed facility of this side in the Mid-Atlantic, and so whether that's Taylor Swift or the Final Four or any WWE wrestling fans out there, WrestleMania could come, but we are going to be able to host everything that's in the city on a national stage. And because of that roof, it gives us a chance to actually create a pipeline of jobs and development. So one of the things that I've done in a lot of building and manufacturing facilities, built the largest bakery in the world, was the development and training of folks to be able to work in the construction of the stadium, and then translating that development so that they can actually go to work in the stadium, right? Not unlike a plant where we would train folks to construct and then end up working in the lines. There's a pipeline here of real jobs that can be created, and thus then start to create this economic engine, which would be housing, grocery store services, transportation, all the things that are great. And the good news is we're starting from a site that actually had a stadium. So a lot of the infrastructure thinking was contemplated in the original RFK. We're just going to enhance that and build off of it.
You mentioned what you did at Campbell's with Camden. Is that the sort of model?
Yeah, I mean, Camden, there are some very valuable lessons in watching the development. Obviously, completely different scale, but I think Camden, one of the mistakes, if I will, that I will say we kind of made together there was we started development without really an anchor, without something that was really a catalyst. And we built housing, but because we didn't have that, we didn't have all the infrastructure. So, and you didn't have things like grocery stores. And so now you're in this position where they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I back into that? And they will. Trust me, Vic Karstafen, who's the who's the mayor of Camden, just an amazing leader. Mick Bakehausen, who replaced me at Campbell's, terrific leader. They're going to continue to work together to get that sorted. But I think here we have a real chance to create the vision for the community and really incorporate that thinking up front to make sure that as we develop this, that we're creating exactly what we envision and what the city deserves.
No doubt. I don't know if I can't see well. Do we have any questions from our colleagues outside in the audience? Mark Ein, why not? Here comes your postgraduate exam.
No. First of all, we want the stones to bounce, not shake.
Okay.
It's bounce.
Okay, thank you for that
Right, we want
clarification.
the fans to bounce.
Yeah, good point. Glad to
But Mark, I'm just so glad you came here today and to give a chance for our business community to get a glimpse at why we're so excited about your leadership here, and also to welcome you and your family to DC. So thank you for being here. It's interesting because you've come here with a different background from other people that we did an extensive search, mostly in sports, and you were really the one person from outside the domain. And all your talking about your SATs and whatever, you are the quickest study I think any of us have ever seen, and bring this really high level of IQ and EQ that's really extraordinary. And I'd love your thoughts, because we all deal with this in our businesses, about bringing people who have domain experience as leaders or bring people who are just leaders who don't bring it, and how you think about that, and how you've been such a quick study. Have you come into something that you didn't have the real domain experience and hit the ground running and been so successful so quickly?
I very much appreciate that, Mark. One of the things that I think was a gift to me throughout life, being dropped into some places where I may not have been as fully prepared, I did learn very quickly that you surround yourself by people that are smarter, more capable, that are going to complement you. And I think in any experience where you're coming in, one of my favorite stories was when I took over in China. I remember I was doing my first town hall. It's 400 people. We had just gone through a systems transition in the company, and the woman that had led it, I had her stand up, and I was like gushing about how great she was, and with every compliment, I watched her recess further and further, and I'm like, do I have the wrong person? What am I doing? So I get done, and an individual that had been in China for a long time was my head of HR, and he came up to me and he goes, Mark, you can't do that. In China, it's all about the group and the team. You don't single people out. And although you may not see the relevance in this moment, it was humbling, but it was incredibly insightful. And so what it told me is you need to put people around you that will help you navigate worlds where you're not as familiar. And use that then to quickly get to a clarity of destination, to know what needs to be possible to succeed in our journey. So as you and Mitch both know, we've spent the last 90 days going through a strategic planning process to really create a destination for the business for the commanders. What that does is that enables you then to say, okay, well, what will need to be true to achieve that? And that allows us to figure out who do we need to bring in and what skill set. And that skill set may be best suited coming from sports, but there may be some things that are best suited coming from other places. And at the end of the day, I want great leaders. I want great athletes that are going to be able to adapt and learn. I want great commanders to come in and work on the business side as well.
Thanks, Mark. Other questions from the colleagues out here? I have a couple more of my own. Why don't I ask you, so you came in, I would say, well done, since you came in February, got the stadium, you went to the NFC Championship, all the things.
Coincidental? I don't know.
Well done.
Yes, coincidental, by the way.
But so how do you build? In other words, do you think you don't want to say success is too fast because you want it whenever you can get it? But are you a little? How do you think about that now? What do you do to
No, look,
deliver on that?
I'm a big fan of the concept of fixing roofs on sunny days, right?
Yeah.
So let's foot to the gas and really drive and get all of the things in place. Use it to attract talent, right? And use it to continue to build stronger relationships in the community with many of the business leaders that are in this room. And certainly our goal is single-minded in nature that we're going to win football games and we're going to be competing to win championships year in and year out. But we also need to make sure that we are the most trusted, the most respected, that you can be proud to be a partner of the Commanders. And we know that we've got work to do, and we're doing it, and we're going to make sure that beyond the football, we're always going to be doing things the right way. And so that if you're partnering with us or that you're working with us, you can trust us to be the best possible partner in sunny days and in rainy days.
You talked about how the coaches, Dan and the others, have a view, what's a commander. How much of that, there's always been a great legacy in Washington with the military. You've got your own military background. My last rank in the Navy was lieutenant commander, so I thought when you guys named them the commanders, it was perfect. But what's the military tie that you feel the opportunity going forward?
Yeah, I mean, despite the Navy.
Yeah, no,
look, I will tell you, it's true. Like when I was in the military, we didn't have nearly the entertainment options that our soldiers do today. We watched Armed Forces Network, and when Armed Forces Network had a football game, it was the Washington Redskins. That's who it was. It was Washington, and it was usually us or the Cowboys. But when you thought about the military team, it was Washington.
Yeah.
And why not? We are in a city where there are so many tremendous ties to the military, and it's an opportunity, I think, to be utilized as part of the equity that we develop. And I actually, when I think of commander, we talk about this sometimes. Anybody can be a warrior, right? Anyone can be a soldier. Anybody can be a warrior. But you've got to be a leader of warriors to be a commander.
Okay.
And that, I think, is something that is an opportunity for us to kind of step into over time.
Yeah, exciting. The schedule this year, it's clear, like we talked about, the NFL sees something special in the Commanders because you have 8, I think, premier games, no 1 o'clock games in October, November. Overseas, Christmas. I mean, it's a super impressive schedule. How's the overseas piece of it fit in? I mean, in the Madrid, that's the first time, right, for the Commanders?
It is. Yeah, we are. We're excited. It adds another dimension to the planning. But I can tell you, and by the way, if you have not bought your plane tickets to Madrid, I recommend you get on and buy your tickets. They are going fast. But I think it's a great, the NFL has a vision, obviously, and as the league does with everything, a very thoughtful, well put together view of how we build the fan base of the sport of football across the globe. And a very important part of that are these games that are happening in cities around the globe. And this year we'll be playing the Miami Dolphins, who's a home market Spain, and you as a team can apply for home market status in different communities. In fact, we applied this year, and UAE will be our home market for the future. But at the end of the day, I think this is important for the game. I think it's good for the NFL to be playing games. They've been extremely well attended. So I would say we're excited about it. We see it in another challenge. And to your point, it's a big stage.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear what you say about UAE. So does that mean eventually there'll be football over there?
Yeah. The timeline, obviously, what will happen is the early stages of these development means that we'll be there with a presence. So we'll be investing in flag football, watch parties, activations, start to build the grassroots, if you will, of the sport. And then we need a facility there that's capable of hosting football. But as we know, UAE loves sports. They've truly been amazing to watch in a variety of different sports, World Cup, F1. It's pretty impressive. And so that will be the future. And it's, we're doing that with the 49ers and the Rams, who are also have UAE applied and accepted that role.
That's exciting.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Very nice. Mark, I first want to thank the Economic Club, Mary Brady and her team. You do such a wonderful job. Thank you very much. We want to welcome you to the Economic Club, so thank you, and thank you very much. Welcome to Washington, that place where you came from. Do they still play football up there? I don't even remember.
No, not well.
But we're delighted that you're here. Thank you very much. Thank you to the ownerships. Thank you very much. And Mayor, thank you again. We do have a little gift, a little parting gift, so I think we get a picture of this here. So.